All right, so we just got done looking at Asmongold and his coverage of the Epstein file drops, which have been enormous and very telling, and nothing seems to be happening yet, but, you know, we'll see what goes on. I was looking for conservatives' reactions to this, because conservatives are the party of family values. They're the party that wants to protect children, and so I thought they must be all up in arms about this, but alas, it's been like 3 or 4 days since the first drops, like the first major drops, and Michael Knowles seems to be one of very few people that are actually discussing it. New Epstein files, facts and fake news. Now, this is a 50-minute video. I am not watching this man for 50 minutes. You can't make me. I won't do it. But I will watch him for as long as I can bear and just see what he's got. Okay, so he talks about the Epstein interview, the Epstein files. Detransitioner wins 2 million. Okay, so he starts talking about the detransitioner story. I heard about that. Okay, so we can at least then just cap it at 31 minutes for sure. That's a hard cap. And then the soft cap will be whenever I get bored. So let's just get started.
The Department of Justice has released 3 million previously unseen documents, pictures, and videos related to Jeffrey Epstein. I spent the weekend going through more of them than I probably should have. Some of the claims in the files are shocking. The names in the files are a who's who of the most influential people in the world, some
True.
that I hadn't even seen before. And this is the most important thing. I have never been more vindicated on my prediction back when all this Epstein stuff began. I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show.
He seems to always be vindicated and never wrong on anything, as with all of them. What was that? Does he think he's cool? Whose leg do you have to hump to get a dry martini around
Welcome
here?
back to the show. Christopher Nolan is doing a new movie about the Odyssey, like Homer's Odyssey. And Helen of Troy,
That was the lamest opening I've ever seen from any YouTuber, by the way, ever.
the most beautiful woman in the Greek world, will be played by Lupita Nyong'o. Some people are surprised by this casting.
Wait, what are we talking? Wait. What happened? I thought we were talking about the Epstein files. No, we have to get mad at a black woman.
Some people are surprised by this casting. Seems a little
She looks great.
anachronistic, doesn't quite seem to fit the story. We will get to that, what some are calling the face that launched 1,000 quips. First, though, I want to tell you about Catholic Match.
Would it be good? Okay, first of all, would it even be legal for me to go on CatholicMatch.com and just like hit up random people? Could I do that's not against the law, right? Like to do that while streaming. So first I have to consider, is it against the law? Then I have to consider, is it against YouTube TOS? And then I have to consider, is it against Twitch TOS? I don't think that it is. No, because you could give, you have no idea what kind of identifying information they could give. I can't do that. Skip forward.
This Epstein stuff, man. Thanks a lot, DOJ. Thanks a lot. I know we've been calling for more transparency on
Troy/Ilya was in modern day Turkey. Having a dark skinned woman would be normal. I don't care. I have never cared less about the skin color of a actor or actress or whatever than I do right now. It does not matter. If they fit the role well and the skin color, like obviously if you're sitting there going, yes, like the Snow White thing was pretty funny. You gotta admit, the Snow White thing was pretty funny because the whole point of part of the story was that Snow White had fairer, meaning whiter skin, because we, live in a fucked up racist society, so we call whiter skin fair, which has like a very positive connotation. Snow White had whiter skin and was fairer than the witch lady, whatever her name was. Okay? So that was funny, but I mostly just found that funny. I wasn't offended or anything as like a white guy.
Epstein, and even when it comes to
But I just don't
transparency, I
care.
think what people really want is just justice for people who have committed crimes. And what they want even more than that is to just know who this guy was. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? What does he represent? I think that's really, when people talk about Epstein, that's what they really want. And one way they talk about it is by saying, we need justice for the victims. And
yes.
The more abstracted way they talk about it is we need transparency. We actually don't need transparency over a lot of how our government and Justice Department function.
What an interesting thing to say, Michael Knowles. We don't need Listen, I know a lot of people are asking for transparency on this whole pedophile thing with Jeffrey Epstein or whatever. Like, I'm here to tell you, You know, no, you don't.
Activities of the government, just like activities of business, actually do require
I
some
know,
secrecy, some classification. So it's not that we're saying everything needs to be declassified, everything needs to be transparent. We just want to know, one, we want justice to be done, but two, we want to know who this man is. One of the most
We know who he
revealing
was.
places to begin is this series of media training sessions that Steve Bannon, former chief strategist at the White House and of the...
Okay, to be fair to him, to be as charitable as possible, we are finding out new things about him, of course. Such as being like, I think it's still alleged at this point, but he was like a close collaborator with the creators of 4chan or whatever. What's his name? Noob, or it's something with two O's in it, and that's kind of a revelation. And the fact that like Poll just had like the Poll for subsection of 4chan moot. Thank you. Just happened to like I don't know the whole story, but it's definitely sus. So I'll be as fair as possible to Michael Knowles, but people aren't asking like who was Jeffrey Epstein. They're asking who was involved with Jeffrey Epstein. We know enough about Jeffrey Epstein. What we don't know is who was around him besides Donald Trump and Elon Musk that we're finding out. Elon Musk was a bit of a shock to me. I'll be honest. Not that I would put it past him ever to engage in that kind of behavior. I just didn't think that he did. Like I thought like at best, you know, he like had a very like minimal contact with Jeffrey, but turns out he was sending emails to the guy being like, please let me go to pedophile island, please, I just want to party with the cool kids and rip out the flesh of minors, please sir.
Trump campaign, Trump won, that he had with Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently Epstein hired Steve Bannon as a media consultant or something like that. And so this gives people, pretty much for the first time, the opportunity to hear Epstein in his own words. And I'm just going to play a brief clip. I mean, there are hours and hours of this footage. But here's a little brief clip of Epstein talking about one of the big problems in children's education.
Potentially one of the bad things to teach children is how to...
Probably like, you know, that they were in school and not on his island.
Potentially one of the bad things to teach children is how to write. So it's writing, reading, and arithmetic was supposed to be, everyone's supposed to be taught, but writing forces you into a very narrow channel of thinking. You have to write in a certain form, in a certain way, in a certain linear pattern. So your thinking becomes somewhat narrow. The reason I brought up writing is one of the recent discoveries of mine with respect to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle is they never wrote anything. They spoke, and people around who could write wrote.
Okay, written language does necessarily limit your imagination to some extent, I guess, or like your communication, because like if you were never given any kind I'm explaining what he's trying to get at, I think. Not that we should care, it's Jeffrey Epstein, but since he brought it up, yes, with any kind of structure, it brings limitations on creativity and how you can, like limitation is kind of the point, you know? If we didn't have like any language whatsoever, you could also have a freer mind in order to communicate more creative things to people, more things that are outside the box of what other people would think. But the point of like the structure that language gives us and what it has done for us outweighs the creativity that you would get without it. You know what I mean? Like you need those limitations. We require those. We need these boxes that we put languages into.
Socrates.
This is very stupid.
So that was...
Jesus of Nazareth was the same way, right? Never wrote anything.
I thought he was a carpenter.
He was a carpenter.
Didn't he need like a little carpenter's tonight? I don't want to get that.
But at least his written
What the fuck are you
One
talking
last
about?
thing.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
I was being way too generous to him. He's literally just like, oh yeah, just don't teach kids to write. Because he heard one time that like, oh, writing, like he heard it on Facebook or some shit. He's like scrolling Facebook and he like finds this thing that's like, did you know that these people didn't actually write anything? And that's why we shouldn't teach kids to, like, he's just a idiot. I'm being way too generous to this disgusting piece of shit.
Okay, so I have 3 takeaways from this brief clip. 1, He doesn't know how to respond when Bannon brings up Christ. That was a little freaky. You know, we've talked about occult
What?
aspects of the Epstein operation.
That's what you took from
the
this?
weird pagan-looking temple on the island, and some of the weird.
Okay, yeah, I know Jeffrey Epstein like did all the things that we know that he did, but if you really think about it and you look at this interview, when you say the name Jesus Christ to him, he makes me feel uncomfortable because he, doesn't know how to respond when our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is brought up to his earballs. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Rituals and practices that are referenced in some of these emails and by some of the people who were in the emails. And he reacts in a way, it's not even spooky as much as it is goofy. I thought he was a carpenter. What does he need? Little carpenter's tools or what? What? Very odd. Not
He
odd,
should
actually,
practice
if you read
that
the Bible,
Jeffrey
'cause,
Epstein impression more.
The name of Christ does scare demons. It kind of freaks them out. They don't know what to make of it. But the second thing that strikes me is that this guy has a very silly voice. You would expect...
Excuse me?
I would have expected Jeffrey Epstein, this guy, lots of money, harem of women, some of them underage, but some of them above age, just like women.
My dude, that's so not. This is insane.
Money,
This is crazy. I'm just gonna let him cook.
Booze, fancy
He's cooking some
people,
dubious food, but let him cook.
billionaires and statesmen and scientists, all
Really
these
glazing
people all
this
around him.
motherfucker.
You'd kind of expect him maybe to sound like James Bond or something, this international man of mystery, and yet he sounds like a slightly dodgier Woody Allen. Like a more morally suspect Woody Allen.
I really would have expected this pedophile to sound cool, like a James Bond character. Okay, dude.
Well, Steve,
Okay.
it's funny you... He sounds like Dr. Fauci. Can you just play me like 5 seconds of that clip? Am I mistaken to say...
Potentially one of the bad things to teach children.
Okay, all right, pause it right there. So it's more Woody Allen than Dr. Fauci.
Is it because they're
Potentially
both
one
Jewish?
of the bad things... Well, but it's still got a little bit of that Dr. Fauci.
Is he doing like really, really covert anti-Semitism? Is that what he's doing? Maybe that's taking it too far, but I could definitely read that into this. He is glazing a pedophile. That's the pedophile, by the way. The child sexual abuser.
Because if you just lower it a little bit, potentially one of the bad things to teach children is that you're good to get no, but you get to bust. So I guess he's a New Yorker. All right, there you have it. He sounds goofy. The words he says, his responses to questions are kind of goofy. He's not as quick on his feet as you would expect. His voice sounds kind of goofy. And then, hold on, let me get back to the first claim he made. He said we shouldn't teach children to write because the smartest people in history, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle,
Probably
didn't write.
one of the
There's
worst
just one
things he ever
problem.
said about
Plato
children,
and Aristotle
really.
definitely wrote. They wrote a lot. They sort of famously wrote. Socrates did not write. That's true. Socrates, we know of, really is a character from Plato's dialogues. And he had conversations with people in the city. Plato for sure wrote. He wrote a lot. Aristotle wrote. Some of what we have of his
don't
is
fucking
his
care.
notes.
Between Michael Knowles and Asman, like, why are they talking about this shit that doesn't matter? Asman was like, oh, did you know that he played Warcraft? And I'm like, okay, cool. And then Michael Knowles is like, did you know that he said children shouldn't be able to... Guess what else he said about children and did with them, Michael? I mean, maybe we could talk about that. Like, you said there's hours and hours and hours of this footage, and this is what you picked out to discuss. Like, do you really think like, are people, like, actually eating this up? Underage women, you mean children? That's true. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, you said he had a harem of women, some of them underage. You mean children?
It's like his lecture notes and things that people wrote about
crazy.
him. But they wrote. So he's just wrong on a basic fact about
Probably
two
played
of
Doom,
the three foundations
Halo.
of Western philosophy.
Who cares?
Which means
he also, like,
Jeffrey
children.
Epstein is not that smart. He's kind of goofy. He gets kind of flummoxed. He's not that smart. Now, he obviously had a certain genius, but he's not the global international super genius you might expect. which seems to lend credibility to
Why
something more
is he
going on behind the
glazing
scenes.
him?
Now, it's worth pointing out, Jeffrey Epstein ostensibly is a Wall Streeter. And Wall Streeters are not necessarily that smart. Wall Streeters are very good at making money. That is a specific skill set. It does not imply that you know anything about Plato and Aristotle. It does not imply that you are a particularly deep
It's the
thinker.
most useless skill set, by the way. Like, objectively.
It can. There are intelligent Wall Streeters, but it's not a one-to-one. So it could just be that he's kind of a bruiser Wall Streeter. I mean, some of the guys in sales and trading around the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, they're tough guys. They're the kind of guys if they weren't working there, they'd be working in a butcher shop in the Bronx or something. So it could be that he's just that guy, or it could be that he's a stand-in for some larger systems. At the very least, I think what we can conclude is he is not in himself some super genius. He's an influence peddler. He gets himself a spot on the Trilateral Commission because he's friends with David Rockefeller. And then he gets a spot on the Council on Foreign Relations.
He was very well connected.
He's just moving in these circles with all sorts of people. The Clintons and the Rothschilds and the Trumps and everybody. Just everybody.
He said Trump? I'm impressed.
The Musks and Silicon Valley and this and that and this and that. He's just moving with everybody. The Israelis and the Arabs and the Russians and the Americans and just everybody. He's an influence peddler. So this is the question.
He's correct on this.
Who is Jeffrey Epstein? There seem to be 4 buckets of stuff that we learned from the files that we already knew, by the way, about Jeffrey Epstein. There's the finance bucket.
I think he's trying to say that Epstein was a puppet. Yeah, I caught that. I don't. Epstein was like the mastermind, as far as we know. I don't know if it goes any deeper than like if you dug down to its nougaty core, right? Epstein is at the center of all of this. I don't think it gets any more central than him.
There's the politics bucket. There's the weird sex bucket, obviously, and then there's this last thing. There's the science bucket. Jeffrey Epstein founds an institute, Santa Fe Institute. It's in the Bannon interviews, to pick up a bunch of scientists at the end of the Cold War because they had been nuclear scientists working during the Cold War. They were out of work. He wanted to scoop them up. He's palling around with a lot of people from Harvard and MIT. He's very interested in things like string theory, and it's weird. And so the question for people is, how do these things fit in with one another, and who is he? I will go.
What I've heard is that Jeffrey Epstein was basically just trying to like crack reality such that like he could just propagate like offspring in I don't know, like it's he believes some ridiculous things.
Oh, very quickly through the Epstein files that most stood out to me. That includes
Knowles wishes he could have visited the island. I won't put that on him, but I will say that it is interesting that his worst accusation of Jeffrey Epstein thus far is that he had an entire harem of women, some of them underage. That is very telling.
Includes links to the Russians, to the Arabs, to the Jews, to the Syrians.
Which PDF is Michael Knowles defending? The PDF.
To the Americans, to the Brits,
you know the one.
To the everybody, to the CIA, to the FBI. How much time do we have? And what new things have we learned? We will get to all of that. First, though, I want to tell you about Cowboy Colostrum. Okay, let's get to the Epstein files. Here we go. Epstein file from
Search
September
Trump.
11th, 2011.
Do a search on Trump, a word
from
search.
redacted to
See how many
Jeffrey
times
Epstein.
it comes up.
Spoke with Igor. He said last time you were in Palm Beach, you told him you had an appointment with Putin on September 16th and that he could go ahead and book his ticket to Russia and arrive a few days before you. He also looked into security in Sochi for you. He said, regardless, he will still need to go to Russia tomorrow to sort out his Russian passport, which expires at the end of September. So he will still fly back to New York on the 19th. He will be happy to go back to Russia with you on September 26th if you go. Okay. How is Jeffrey Epstein getting appointments with Putin, the, at this time, leader of Russia for over 10 years? Is he, okay, let's just put this in the column of maybe he was working with the KGB. If he's a super spy, maybe he was working with the Russians. Next one. This is an email from a sultan in Dubai, Sultan bin Sulayem, a big business leader in Dubai. Dear Jeffrey, I'm attaching some media clipping.
Colostrum as in human milk. That is, wait, you're right. That is like human milk. Should I go back?
Your daily routine. Our sponsor, Cowboy Colostrum,
Cowboy
offers the highest quality
colostrum.
bovine colostrum available in the U.S.
Bovine. Okay. Yeah, it comes from cows too.
Next one. This is an email
Still
from a
kinda
sultan
weird.
in
I don't know.
Dubai,
I don't know.
Sultan bin Sulayem, a big business leader in Dubai. Dear Jeffrey, I'm attaching some media clipping regarding the Israeli operation in Dubai. I will call you around 7 p.m. Eastern time. What happened doesn't help anyone. This is from Wednesday, February 17th, 2010. I don't remember this particular Israeli operation in Dubai. This would seem to imply that Epstein is either working with the Israelis. He's saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this Israeli operation. Okay, maybe he was working with the Israelis. It might also imply maybe he was working with the Arabs. Why is the Sultan reaching
Or
out to
both.
Epstein? Is Epstein a go-between between the Arabs?
Turns out people from all cultures, there are people from all cultures who are powerful enough and depraved enough to want what Jeffrey Epstein has, and he provided. So I'm not surprised that he had his fingers in every single pot.
The Israelis. Next one. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to blank. He passed away.
Hello, Liz.
It says
Welcome
Robert
in.
Maxwell threatened Mossad. And there are all sorts of weird typos and kind of odd formatting errors, maybe just in the way these emails were exported. But
From
Robert
whom?
Maxwell was the spy, reportedly a double or possibly triple agent for Israel and Russia and maybe the British, who had a big media empire. He was the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the girlfriend and madam for Jeffrey Epstein. And Robert Maxwell died under very suspicious circumstances and got a funeral in Israel. So Robert Maxwell threatened Mossad, writes Jeffrey Epstein. He told them that unless they gave him 400 million pounds to save his crumbling empire, he would expose all he had done for them. In that time, he had free access to Margaret Thatcher's Downing Street, Ronald Reagan's White House, to the Kremlin, and to the corridors of power throughout Europe. Maxwell passed on all the secrets he learned to Mossad in Tel Aviv. In turn, they tolerated his excesses, vanities, and insatiable appetite for a luxurious lifestyle in women. He told his controllers who they should target, how they should do it. He appointed himself as Israel's unofficial ambassador to the Soviet bloc. Okay, so we don't know who this is to. This could insinuate that Epstein had a relationship with Mossad. It could insinuate that he didn't really. Maybe he was not particularly pro-Israel, in as much as he's...
Which is interesting. I don't know why they would redact who they sent this to. Like, why redact that? Jeffrey Epstein was in direct contact with this person. Why? I don't understand. There's no reason.
accusing Israel of murdering Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, who had been working with Israel, and I guess the Russians and the Americans and the British. Was he a quadruple agent? Next one. From Jeffrey Epstein to Joy Ito. Epstein writes, talk today. He says, my schedule's a bit crappy, but I could call from the car. Where will you be? By the way, I'm trying to get a friend out of prison in Syria. You don't happen to have anyone with influence over Assad, do you? And Jeffrey Epstein responds, not for email. This is one of my favorite emails in the entire batch. And actually, there are a number of
Not
emails
for
like
email.
this. Not for email. All the stuff this guy is emailing about. Weird sex stuff. International
To who?
intrigue between really every sector of the entire globe. Scientific secrets. Did I mention weird sex stuff? All the stuff Jeffrey Epstein emails about. Joking or not joking about killing people. And yet Jeffrey Epstein knows some things are really not to be put in writing. Including, do you have influence over Assad? He has influence over Assad? Now is he working for the Syrians? If Jeffrey Epstein knows that some things are not for email, and his emails are this titillating, what on earth is not in the emails? And what...
I think I'm kind of mixed on this coverage because, like, he's talking about Jeffrey Epstein's connections around the world, but, like, I just can't be that charitable to Michael Knowles. I feel like he's really not touching on the most interesting and, frankly, the most concerning aspects of this, which is, one, the most powerful man on earth, President Donald Trump, is in the files thousands of times. And 2, the richest man on earth, Elon Musk, is also in the files, begging to go to Jeffrey Epstein's island on a night where he is having the craziest party. You know, I just feel like this is the first, like, if this were like the 7th or 8th video in like a series that he's doing on the Jeffrey Epstein files, then I would buy it more and I'd be more charitable. But this is like the first and only video. Facts and fake news. So what's the fake news then? I'm going to skip ahead, I think.
Jeffrey, this is from 2011. Understood, remember, there are already $80 billion in frozen assets international.
Yeah, not to mention he was fucking glazing as well. He was glazing the shit out of Jeffrey Epstein.
Of which 32 billion are in the U.S. It's estimated that the real number is somewhere to 4 times this amount in sovereign, stolen, misappropriated assets, blah, 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 blah. They're talking about Libya, right, during that Libya operation.
Okay, I'm skipping ahead again.
Well, we don't know exactly what the lawyers requested. We do, however, know the CIA's response, and this is very, very interesting. Let's pull up the CIA's response. Do we have it? Okay. Dear Mr. Weinberg, Epstein's lawyer, on July 25th, 2011, the Office of Information Privacy Coordinator received your letter request providing additional information pertaining to your client, Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. Since you have provided the necessary information, we processed Mr. Epstein's request in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and the Privacy Act. We searched for CIA-originated responsive records that might reflect an open or otherwise acknowledged agency affiliation existing from November 5th, 1999, the date of our previous acceptance letter, to July 25th, 2011, the date we accepted Mr. Epstein's current request. We were unable to locate any information or records. That phrasing, we searched for CIA-originated response to July 25th, 2011, the date we accepted Mr. Epstein's current request. We were unable to locate any information or records. That
cut
phrasing,
back to Michael.
We searched for
right back to the
CIA-originated
screen.
responsive records that might reflect
What's the
an
point of that
open
transition?
or otherwise acknowledged agency affiliation between 1999, well, from 1999 to 2011. Okay. Open or acknowledged. Well,
There
we
you
know
go.
that a lot of what the CIA does is not open or acknowledged. Why is Jeffrey Epstein requesting this information from the CIA in the first place? If there's just nothing in there, why would he, and what specifically did he request? Did he say, is there any open and acknowledged relationship between you guys and me? They go on. The CIA says, with respect to responsive records that would reveal a classified connection to the CIA, in accordance with Section 36A of Executive Order, blah, 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 as amended, the CIA can neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of records responsive to your request. The fact of the existence or non-existence
forward again.
Why did he deny it? Was he perhaps assured that there was no public relationship documented between?
He's got a third
Jeffrey Epstein
ad.
clear problem accounts from their books before audits begin. This creates a narrow window. So the most salacious accusations, rather, that come out of the Epstein files come from FBI interviews. So the FBI interviewed one person in particular, one or two people in particular. And here are some of the claims.
Okay.
George H.W. Bush, like a baby or something like that. George Bush
I'd absolutely
and
believe
Bill
that.
Clinton, someone, I think at the same time, Epstein and Clinton raped a guy at the same time. There's another one. It was like Bush was someone or eating a baby or something while Trump watched or something like. Oh, you say, wow, that's really crazy.
Okay, wait. We were like really digging through the files before when we were just talking about Jeffrey Epstein's connections to like Putin and shit. But now that we're talking, well, you know, George H.W. Bush eating a baby or some shit. I don't know. Who's to say? You know, like this is substantial. Like there are plenty of accounts from victims that, like, why would you not believe that? Are you telling me that that you believe Jeffrey Epstein over these victims, basically? You know, that's kind of insane.
And then you get to reports. Oh, sorry, redacted. Stated all of the above incidents.
Not even believe Jeffrey Epstein over these victims. Like this. What am I trying to say? This is all connected to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying that it is all 100% verifiable fact. Okay. After all, these are just interviews with alleged victims. But if the stories are all like, supporting and corroborating each other and whatever, and yeah, it's like why are you like shaking your head at this, being like, there's just no way, like, this is silly, this is ridiculous. Who makes like look at this, states he was sodomized by Epstein in 2000 on a large yacht, 9 out of blank, as well as by former U.S. President William J. Clinton. That sounds credible to me, given what we know about these men.
Were, quote, recovered repressed memories until he began
It's
therapy.
just an interesting
sometime in
response to
2016,
me.
approximately. Redacted, offered no supporting or corroborating evidence or witnesses that could be contacted. Redacted, appeared to be emotionally unbalanced and not intoxicated. At this time, it is not recommended that any additional investigative
nothing about
resources
Trump
be
here.
expended concerning redacted.
Oh wait, no, yes, it is. Wait, he's right here. Current President Trump, along with his wife Melania, were present during that said yacht trip in 2000. Trump not married to his current spouse Melania until 2005.
There is a fair bit of this kind of stuff in there. Just like, person who does not appear to have any credibility makes crazy claims, like long after the Epstein scandal breaks. And the FBI is even joking about it in some cases. They say, oh, wow, Bush raped him with Clinton and Trump. And oh, wow, that's amazing. And some people who I think are a little more credulous, and fair enough.
Okay, but my thing is, they were all connected to Jeffrey Epstein. They've been in pictures together. Like, they all know each other and are in cahoots with each other. And it's not that far out there to believe that. Like, it's at this point, it's really not. Like, at this point, like, the ball is in the court of those who don't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to trust, frankly. A lot of this could be bullshit, but I just am inclined to believe it because we know that Jeffrey Epstein existed. We know a lot of the shit that he did. We know that he had connections and clients. We know that those clients have not been revealed until lately, right? And we know that we assume, I should say, a very logical assumption, that the very powerful people that Jeffrey Epstein was connected to took him out because he was going to blab, and now they are going to, and then after that, they started covering up anything that tried to make its way out. So, like, yeah, I'm inclined to, like, if they want to hide it that bad, right? Basically, what we're finding out is that our society is completely fake. It's all fake. It was made up by pedophile elites, and the political landscape right now is just a construct concocted by a few perverted men in their basement while like gorging on infant, bones or whatever. I don't know, bone marrow. Like it's ridiculous.
If they recognize that a lot of our global elites are complete degenerates, but they just take all of this at face value. You can't take anything at face value when it comes to the Epstein case. The one thing we know for sure about Epstein is that he was deceitful, that he's morally not quite right, that he slips around. He's a master of disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that people make all sorts of crazy accusations. Okay. I want to bring this full circle. What did I say at the top of the show? I said I've never been more vindicated in my prediction about Epstein. Because what did I say when the Epstein stuff all kicked off again? I said, guys, you are wasting your time. Maybe I should kick myself because I spent a lot of time over the weekend on this. I said, one of two things can be true about Jeffrey Epstein. Either he's exactly who the mainstream tell us he is. He's just an eccentric rich guy who coincidentally was friends with all the influential people in the world. And that's it. That's all. That's all there is to it. Nothing. Oh, and then he killed himself in a prison cell. Oopsie. And then the cameras went out. But they didn't go out, but then they did go out. And actually, never mind. He's just exactly who he says he is. Either that is true, or Jeffrey Epstein was something a little bit more than that.
Just a little bit.
But in the first case, let's say he is exactly who the mainstream tell us he is. In that case, we already know everything we're going to know about Jeffrey Epstein.
Wait, he's vindicated because he's like, oh, I knew all along that Jeffrey Epstein was up to no good, that rascal. What are you talking about?
In the case that Jeffrey Epstein is a little bit more than that, I want you to listen to this very carefully. We already know everything we're ever going to learn about Jeffrey Epstein. That, I know it's a very unpopular observation. I am so vindicated on this. 3 million documents just came out.
That's what he's vindicated on?
Significant new finding is there in the documents?
Well, for instance, that Elon Musk was trying to get to the island. He didn't bring that up yet. Elon Musk is implicated in the Epstein file. Like, he's literally just running cover. At this point, you're running cover. Michael Knowles is running cover. That'll be the title. Michael Knowles runs cover for Jeffrey Epstein collaborators. Like, that's all that is. Like you are, after glazing, once I must stress this, the amount of glaze that this man poured all over the corpse of Jeffrey Epstein, you couldn't get that much from a horse cock. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's crazy. And then after that, you start saying, like, oh, by the way, like, this elite pedophile who was well connected to the top of society, we're never going to learn anything more about him. There's nothing to dig into here. There's nothing really to look at. We just want to know who he was. And don't ask more questions like, what about George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all these rich, powerful people, just casually, taking a nice little trip to the pedophile island and eating babies and shit. Don't ask questions about it, because it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I know it. You know it. Like, that's all he's doing. He's running cover. That's crazy. That's crazy work, man.
There's this titillating story about Bill Gates. Yeah. Oh, really interesting. Well, did you know he was talking to the Arabs? Actually, yes, I did. Did you know he was talking to the Israelis? Yes, I did. Did you know he was talking to American intelligence? I did. Did you know? We all knew all of that. We all knew all of that.
This is insane.
There are more titillating examples of this. What significant new finding for the people who come out and say, why don't we talk? Why don't we do something about do what? Do what? Do what?
It's a good question.
What new finding is there? Folks, they passed a law in the early 90s that said they had to release all the Kennedy files. Remember this? John F. Kennedy assassinated the 19...
I'm done. Not a single mention of Donald Trump. Not a single mention of Elon Musk, which is ridiculous. You can't, those three names, Jeffrey Epstein, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, you cannot separate them anymore. They are forever imprinted in the annals of history as connected. They're all connected to each other. So the fact that you can't even acknowledge that, Michael Knowles, is very telling. I was willing to be charitable to you at first, even though you made some very weird comments about Jeffrey Epstein, being like this James Bond type of guy with a ton of money and women and a harem. And some of those women were underage, which would make them children, by the way, Michael. You were willing to say that much. I lost my train of thought completely. I'm sorry. I was willing to be charitable to you at first, even with all of that. But this is just blatantly covering up very real crimes that people on your side have committed. Okay, and if you want to say Bill Clinton's on my side, sure, fine. I'm sure that there are people who are on my side or believe things that I do or have values that I do that are also implicated in that little black book. I have no doubt. Put them under the jail. I don't care. I don't care. I will turn them over. Can you say the same? Like, if you're watching this, if you're hate watching this and you're still here, first of all, congratulations. It's a long time to hate watch somebody. But second of all, really honestly ask yourself, at what point could I, if you don't actually think that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are implicated in any way, okay, ask yourself what would make you believe it. And if the answer is nothing, that's called being delusional. You're delusional. Donald Trump was absolutely on Pedophile Island. Elon Musk wanted to be there. We at least know that, okay? So if either of those things are wrong, they're more than welcome to sue me for defamation, Not that they know who I am or give a but, I'm not that important. Yeah, it's crazy how, talk about being vindicated. Right? I feel more vindicated than anybody has ever been vindicated on the planet. Because I grew up in a conservative household and I believed all the things that conservatives did and I voted for Trump in 2016 and whatever. And then I took a good long look at the world and I said, I think, I might be on the wrong side of this. Maybe I was just, not born as morally lucky as some other people and I ended up on the wrong side of this political equation. And then I switched. And you know what? One of the most vindicating decisions that I've ever made. Right? You guys got what I mean. I'm just saying. But yeah, very interesting how conservatives don't seem to want to talk at all about their own guys being in that in these files. Hi, thanks so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you all know that I love and appreciate everybody in my community, whether you can support me financially or just by liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. It helps way more than you know. That being said, I do want to give a very special thanks to my Tier 4 subs, which would be Space Timid and Hot Take Andy. And thanks so much to my monetary subscribers from any of the the tiered subs, or anybody who gives me money in any form, including going to my Patreon shop, donating money to me directly. It all helps way more than you know. If you do decide to help me financially, you can get some really cool perks like early access to content, exclusive access to censored videos, also some really cool badges next to your name. Even if you can't afford a monetary subscription, just watching, sharing, and commenting on my content helps way more than you know. Thanks again, and I will see you all in the next video.